Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. Hi, Christy. Let's see what you say right here. I was there. So you must be talking about the live that Fancy did. I think it was Friday night. Today is Sunday, so I think it was Friday night that she did the live. I was watching it as well, and I I'm sorry, but I thought it was hilarious. Like, I was kind of into it. It was so Fancy. I do wish that Fancy would, like, handle her mental health a little bit better, but you know what? It's Fancy. Fancy. Okay, so Christy says, "I was there and I don't know. I just thought Fancy could have held herself with a little more class. I do wonder if she regrets the way she handled it. That was her chance, and I feel like she missed it. Her chance to talk to Gypsy. I absolutely guarantee you Gypsy was not going to go live with her. Not at all. I'm actually shocked that Gypsy came into her chat and spoke with her. I do think it very much shows us that Gypsy and her family have an obsession with Fancy, like a major obsession. But I don't think they want to give her any opportunity to get more subscribers, have more people listen to her. And like Gypsy showing up, like putting her face on the chat would have made that happen tenfold. And they are not going to let that happen. Hi, Ginger. Hi, Renelle Smith is here. She's covering Gypsy as well. Please head over to her channel. She has so much good information going on over there. Hi to everyone. I'm glad that you're here. I have like kind of a new setup where I can sit in my super comfy chair in my bedroom and talk to you guys. My son is away today. He's actually visiting Washington, D.C. with my husband. My husband flew into D.C. For a period of time. And so I wanted to take him up there. He gets to visit the Capitol with Daddy and all that kind of stuff. And I have a little bit of time to myself today. And I put together a new video that I want to show you. But I also want to talk about all the crazy shenanigans that are going on with Gypsy. It's insane. And I'm sorry, but I think I'm loving it. I think I'm loving it a little bit too much. I'm so glad you're here, Renelle. I miss you and I love you. Hi, Sarcasm for Fun. Good to see you. Zuna, Better with the Irish. Good to see you. Hi, Lulu. Good to see all of you. All right, let's bring up this. I'm just going to get right into it. Okay. This is, for me, it's kind of a newer account on Instagram. I have been following this account religiously now because I love what this person is doing. Okay. It's obviously the account is originally about Katie Joy Paulson. It's called Hate Tea Joyless. Okay. It was originally about Katie Joy Paulson, but now they're covering all of the Gypsy Rose stuff and it is hilarious. So go over to Instagram and follow this person. They have all of the tea. They're copying everything down. They put it in the post so I can look at it. I find a lot of this stuff on my own, but I don't always remember to like snapshot it or take out like the piece of the live that Fancy does that I want to look at. And this person is doing it all for me. So thank you, Haiti Joyless. I'm so glad that you're putting this all on your Instagram profile so that I can snatch it up. And anyone that's here, I hope you will run over to Instagram and take a look at this page. It's quite interesting. Okay, so first and foremost, let's see, make this nice and big. And let me make this big for myself too. I'll go big. Okay. Hold on. I'm just trying to make this a little bit bigger. All right, so Haiti Joyless, she's capturing like a lot of the comments that Gypsy is making on random people's pages, and I love it. I'm here for it. So here we have someone asking Gypsy, like, how do you feel about your new boyfriend, Ken Urkers? You know what? And Gypsy says, let's just say I'm very happy. Fire. All right. Is the D fire? According to Gypsy, it definitely is. We all know that Gypsy has left Ryan Anderson in the dust. He is sad, pathetic. If you haven't watched my videos, he's like crying. He's crying on his Instagram. I feel bad for the guy, but I've also put it out there that I really have to wonder what kind of a person marries someone like Gypsy Rose Blanchard after watching her in The Act and on HBO and just being like, I was just drawn to her, attracted to her. Like, Ryan, I'm sorry, but you might need some therapy or mental health intervention if that was what was attractive to you. And I'm not saying that to be mean, not at all. You know, I really think Ryan probably has a good heart. You know, deep down in his soul, he's a good person. He's a special needs teacher, but you should not be attracted to what was shown on The Act or in the HBO documentary. We all know that. That is way too much, and you need to get some help. Look, Lulubi says, crotch fire. Yes. Gypsy's about to get a crotch fire. If she keeps jumping from guy to guy to guy, who knows, there might even be some girls in there when she was in prison. It would not surprise me. All right, let's go and see what else Joyless has to say. You don't know him. That's very true. I don't know him. We'll have to wait and see if anything else comes out about him. Okay, so this is really funny. Let me push myself to the side. Okay, this is a tribute that Gypsy Rose did on her, I think it's her TikTok. I also see it on her Instagram as well, but Haiti Joyless picked it up for us, and I'll just play it. You're not going to hear it because the music that she put to it is all about how they have become like the kind of couple from the storybooks, and their love is just like well known and famous across the ages. You can see our legendary love story. They're just like singing together in the car. The music is copyrighted, so I can't show it to you, but it's basically about how they are the next Bonnie and Clyde, and their love is ageless, you guys. He might need penicillin. Yeah, they might all need some penicillin by the time this is over. Lulubi, I've seen Haiti Joyless in chats a lot. Great. Oh, great. I haven't seen her very much. That's great. Okay, so this is them. Look, they got their. Okay, so everybody's been asking me where the husky tattoos come from. Let's see if I can pull it back up. Okay, so Ryan has come forward and he said that he has a husky. Not Ryan. I'm sorry, I'm completely confused. Ryan is stuck with Pixie, that shitty tiny dog. It's Ken Urker that has a husky. He's been a longtime husky owner. He loves his husky. And so Gypsy decided to get a matching husky tattoo with him. I showed you guys in my last video that I'm pretty sure like they're going to get another husky because Gypsy's all over Instagram, like liking and loving all these husky posts, these husky puppy posts, how to raise a husky. She's liking and loving it. It's like, I'm pretty sure they're looking into breeders. They're going to get a brand new purebred dog, puppy, baby, so that, you know, Gypsy can ignore and abuse that as well. Oh my God, sarcasm. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. You didn't have to do that at all. But thank you. I owe you something. Girl or guy, I don't know which one. I owe you a tarot card reading. Would you do that with me? Think about it, sarcasm. I owe you a tarot card reading. I would love to do that with you one-on-one. This video is cringe. Are you talking about my video with me, or are you talking about the video of Gypsy and Ken Urker? Because it is 100% cringe. Yes, it's really generous, and you have no idea how much I could really use that. So thank you so much. All right, so let's go ahead. Yeah, this video is totally cringe. Go check out Haiti Joyless so you can listen to the music, because it's like, look at them dancing together. Here, I'll sing the song for you. It's like, our love is a love of the ages. We're gonna be so famous and we don't care what anyone else thinks. That's basically what this song is. Just like play that over in your mind over and over. Okay, now you're gonna hear them just talking. All right, that's the start of the music, but I can't play it. Just think to yourself, our love is a love for the ages. Bonnie and Clyde on the run. We don't care what anyone thinks. That's basically what the song is about. That's the song. All right, let's listen to the next. Okay, this is Gypsy in Hollywood. I showed this to you in another video, but let's listen again. She's just having a night out on the town. Okay, so she was just out in Hollywood. She's having a grand old time. If you guys are not aware, I put it in my last video. You can go check it out. But Gypsy flew out. She flew out of Louisiana like in a whirlwind with none other than, can you guys guess in the chat? Who do you think Gypsy grabbed a hold of and took out to LA with her? Of all the people in the world, who would she bring with her? Well, of course, it was Christy Blanchard. Okay, Christy is in all the videos. She's all over Backgrid. If you guys don't know what Backgrid is, it's in my last video as well. It's this like photography agency that D-list celebrities, they call, maybe even A-list celebrities, I don't know. They call Backgrid and they're like, hey, I'm showing up at LAX, the airport later today at this time. Will you be there to take pictures of me? And will you give me like some of the money when you sell it to TMZ? So Backgrid is showing up everywhere that Gypsy is in LA, and they are taking extensive photographs of her and videos and putting it all over the internet. So that's where we're getting a lot of this from. And then, of course, we also have TMZ and Lifetime putting out a bunch of bullshit about Gypsy Rose, and we're about to hear some of that now. And then we will get into the reality of what Gypsy is really doing in LA. She's stalking Fancy Maselli, which is the most hilarious part of all of this. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, Tammy. Hello, Rabbit. Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology had some nice things to say about your channel. I love Aaron, Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology. I absolutely love him. If that's true, then that's crazy. But honestly, Tammy, I think he might be talking about another Down the Rabbit Hole at Bedtime, because he went on her channel. You can go check it out. It's Down the Rabbit Hole News, not Down the Rabbit Hole at Bedtime. And I really like her channel as well. And he went on her channel. I'm going to be totally honest with you, because it would mean the world to me if Aaron knew who I was. I love that guy. And I love that he's speaking out against Scientology. But I think he's talking about Down the Rabbit Hole News, and she's great. And she talks extensively about Scientology, and she had Aaron on her show. So go and check her out. Okay. So this is okay, so this account just loves to make fun of Gypsy Rose's mouth. So she's just she caught like a picture of Gypsy Rose, like, you know, opening and closing her mouth. And she says here, I finally figured out who Gypsy Rose reminded me of. And it has to do with like Hocus Pocus. Who's that girl? The woman, like, is it Sarah Jessica Parker, who like talks kind of like sideways on Hocus Pocus? So she's just kind of focusing on her mouth here. And then we're going to hear a little bit from the actual interview. Her mouth really bothers me there, the way they put the lipstick on.
You've undergone, you know, some changes. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good tonight. It's my first time in LA, so I'm enjoying my day.
You are back together with your ex-fiance. We've seen the pictures. What's the status of your relationship?
We're very happy together. We have a long history together. We've always had a really close friendship that made for a great relationship. So we're in a good spot right now.
What do you want the viewers to...
Lucy, do you know what Aaron's channel is called? I forget it. If you can think of it, link it down below. If not, I'll do it at the end. I really like his channel. It's all about Scientology. He is a former Scientologist. He speaks out against what happened in Scientology. He gives you all of the information about what's going on in Scientology right now. I've been a fan of his channel for a long time. It's a pretty big channel, and I just can't think of the name off of the top of my head. Here it is. Thank you, Tammy. Growing Up in Scientology. Please check it out. That's a great channel. If you like my channel, I really think you would like Aaron's. It's much more professional, much more well done. And he brings like real life experiences to what it's, you know, to the topic at hand, to discussing Scientology. And he has real life relationships with all of these people that he speaks about. He's got a relationship with Leah Remini. And there's also a lot of turmoil. There's all kinds of stuff going on over there right now. Even Aaron's been involved in like a lot of the like shenanigans. You just really need to go and see it for yourself. So check out his channel. But getting back to Gypsy.
take away from the new episodes?
I just really hope that people take away that, you know, I'm just an average woman coming out into society, trying to reacclimate, trying to adjust.
I'm sorry, Gypsy. You are not an average woman. You have to stop playing that card. Like, I really don't understand why PR from Lifetime doesn't get a little bit more involved with some of this. Or if they are, and they're telling her to say, like, I'm an average woman, it just doesn't make sense. No, you're not. Like, the things that you've done, you need to own up to it. There needs to be more of a, like, come to Jesus type of situation where you're like, yeah, I've done some crazy shit in my life. And by crazy shit, I mean murder my mother. You know, I mean, it's really bad, Gypsy. Like, you know that I have supported you. Not that she knows, she doesn't care about my channel, but I have supported her from the time that she got out of prison. I was like, give this girl a chance. I have worked extensively with children of abuse, children who have been horribly abused. And I'm going to be talking about that a lot in my upcoming series about Timothy Ferguson Paul Ferguson. I really want to open up to you guys about what I've seen and why I have such a tendency. I mean, I hope I can really, present to you that there are reasons why I look at children who have been through shit. And Gypsy has been through shit. Even if you have a tendency to believe more of what Fancy Maselli says in all of her live streams and all of her videos, you cannot deny. I wish I would have put a picture here. You cannot deny when you see a picture of Gypsy Rose Blanchard at like 8, 9, 10 years old, sitting in a wheelchair, head shaved, looking like she has some kind of mental disability on a cruise ship. I'm sorry. Would you raise your child that way? Do you want your child to be raised that way? Do you really think that isn't severe mental abuse? I don't care if she's on a Disney cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and you're like, oh, wouldn't that be so much fun? No, it would not be so much fun to a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old child to have to pretend like she is wheelchair bound and that she can't play and get up and frolic and have the most fun and swim everywhere and do whatever she wants on that Disney cruise ship line. She has to pretend that she's mentally impaired. My 11-year-old daughter doesn't even want to be seen with me, let alone be put into a wheelchair, be forced to pretend like she's 6 years old, like at the mentality of a 6-year-old girl, hold my hand the whole time, not go play with friends, not have one friendship. That was abuse. Even if that's all that happened, even if Fancy is right and that's all that happened is they were running some kind of crazy financial scam, it involved putting her child into a wheelchair, getting her a feeding tube, shaving her head. None of those things were necessary. Fancy loves to say like so much of it was necessary. The stuff we see in those pictures was not necessary. That is severe fucked up abuse. And I dare anyone to come to me and say like, I would raise my child that way. I don't see that would be that bad. Are you kidding me? Like that is really messed up. And no one can change my mind that there wasn't some kind of severe situation going on there. I believe there's a lot more that went on behind the scenes. I believe some of what Gypsy has said about sexual abuse, among other things. And I think, oh my gosh, Kat, thank you. That was really kind of you too. Sorry, I don't mean to be ignoring chat. I just get really passionate about this. I respect everybody else's opinion. I really do. And I have watched Fancy extensively and I've taken some of what she has to say to heart. Like, I think everybody has a voice at the table. Okay. Another person I really like is this channel called Toddy One Skip. If you want to check her out, she's been in my chat before. I really like her. And she tends to come down more along the lines of what Fancy thinks about Gypsy. I also really love Renelle Smith, who I think is kind of like a mid-lying person who does a really good job of seeing both sides of the story. But from my point of view, yes, Gypsy was horribly abused. Also, from my point of view, she's kind of turned out to be a pretty big bitch. You know what I mean? Like both things can be true. She's out there doing like really crazy social media crap. She's being toxic. She's manipulating things. And we're about to see that when we see how Gypsy came on to Fancy Maselli's live. But let's listen a little bit more to how Gypsy was presenting herself when she was actually on the red carpet in LA speaking for Lifetime.
Doing the best she can, and my life is going to be full of missteps and mishaps, but some achievements as well. And so I'm learning who I am as an individual. So I brought people along this journey with me because my life is very unique and very not cookie cutter. So I hope people just take away that I'm just a person and, you know, just trying to do the best I can.
Okay, so we are getting ready to take a look at what happened with Fancy Maselli. I think it was Friday night. If someone else knows otherwise, let me know. I remember I was just like clicking on the video and I was like, oh my God, Fancy is going off. I wonder if I'm sitting on my phone because my butt is vibrating. Is it my baby? My baby is in DC with his daddy. Oh, my baby. Oh, just a baby. Just a little boy. He's so cute. My number one guy. Aw. I called last night. I was like, is he missing me? Does he need his mommy? He doesn't at all. Not at all. I just miss him. Okay. All right. Let's see. So, it was either Friday night. It might have been, I don't think it would have been during the day yesterday. I think it was Friday night. Fancy Maselli went live. Fancy Maselli, if you don't know her, she has a YouTube channel called The Good Wives Network. I've spoken extensively about her on this channel. You can go through my many, many videos about Fancy. I find her to be absolutely fascinating. She is fascinating. Okay. She started working with Gypsy, well, more so Christy Blanchard at the very beginning of all of this, right after the HBO documentary came out. She started working with them when Gypsy was in prison. And she kind of had this idea or this goal that she would help them create a series around Gypsy's story. Okay. Now, eventually there was a major breakdown in the relationship between Fancy and Christy. You guys, I don't know if all of you are aware of how crazy it was, okay? Now, Fancy would say that she started to turn on Gypsy because she saw that Gypsy was maybe like lying, making up some things, being dishonest, and she realized that something was wrong. But Christy and Gypsy, and I think this may be a little bit more closer to the truth, say that they turned on Fancy because they realized she was fake, like that she could not get them the series. She did not have the Hollywood connection she said she did. I think that Fancy did have some connections. I think that Fancy was working hard to try to make something happen for them, but it wasn't happening fast enough. It wasn't good enough. And Christy Blanchard and Gypsy were just like, we're done with this. But the way that they turned on Fancy, the things that they did to her are so insane. According to Fancy, Gypsy literally said to her, like, I guess on the phone or whatever, you know, the last person that messed with me wound up dead. Wow. Okay. That was like the ending of her relationship with Gypsy. And since then, she's worked really hard to gather more information and do more research and reporting, in which she's basically saying that Gypsy's whole story about what happened to her is a load of shit. She was never abused. It is not Munchausen's by proxy, that everything that was done to Gypsy medically was medically necessary. You really have to go to the Good Wives Network to watch all of this and get an idea about it. I've also made videos about it on my channel. At the same time, Fancy has clearly, many times over, lost her marbles on social media. We've watched her in videos like completely lose it. And she's been honest. She said things like, well, I'm on this medication. I have bipolar disorder. She puts it all out there. Okay. But it's cuckoo. Like, it's crazy. It's over the top. There are times I feel like I'm going to lose my marbles too. So I'm not fully like, coming down on her. I understand that maybe also a lot of this harassment from all of these people surrounding Gypsy contribute to the issues with her mental health. Like, we get it, I get that. I also think that she's way over the top in the way that she comes after Gypsy. Okay, so Friday night when Fancy Maselli went live, Gypsy showed up. Okay, Fancy Maselli does this thing where she talks to her YouTube channel like this, head on, but then she also talks to her TikTok channel like this over to the side. And I think her phone is like sitting here capturing her on TikTok. So you'll see her kind of look like back and forth. All right, so Gypsy came into her chat, which is crazy because Gypsy hates Fancy Maselli. Like, Gypsy and Christy everything that they do seems to be focused around getting people to turn against Fancy. So I was kind of surprised that she even came into the chat, but she was very quick, did like a quick hop in, quick leave, and refused to come up and like speak to Fancy, and actually got her TikTok banned. Okay. Now we're going to watch this backwards because the first clip that Haiti Joyless put up is Fancy responding to Gypsy coming into her chat. And the next clip is the clip of Gypsy actually coming into her chat. I just found this absolutely ridiculous and amazing. There's so much I want to say about it, and I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to make it really big. Let me get rid of this. Hide current comments. Okay. Let me make this nice and big. How big can I make it? All right, good. Okay, now let's listen in.
I'm going to go ahead and continue to read the article. We're not going to let that stupid piece of amoeba shit on a fucking boil of humanity fucking get the rest of me tonight. No, thank you, you stupid little snotty little brat. No, I'm so sorry. I guess she just wasn't having enough attention in freaking Hollywood this weekend that she needed to come bother little old me here in Kentucky.
That's the great part. That's the part that makes me
Like,
just...
I bothered you that much. I live that rent-free in her head, guys, that she took time out of her week in California where she's never been and never been on the sand.
There's so much. We have so much to watch about this. But clearly, Fancy is letting it all. There's one thing I can say about Fancy. I'm kind of impressed that she's sticking to like what she's always said about Gypsy. I kind of expected if Gypsy came into the chat for her to be like, Gypsy, come on. You know, we're really just friends. Like, let's chat. Because all of these people, these thousands of creators, you guys have no idea how many creators are involved in this. Once again, I'm still in the background working on this video about like the toxic web of Christy Blanchard. It's this web of so many creators that Christy has formed relationships with, okay? And they go live, they do this, they say that, they've got Gypsy in their chat, they've got Christy in their chat. The way that this manipulation is working is just, it's insane. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And I think it has contributed heavily to why Gypsy is so popular on TikTok and social media in general. And it's part of the reason why she has been able to like continue having a show and getting a new book. Like Christy Blanchard really set up all this bullshit chaos in the background, and it is feeding this machine, this huge machine that is taking Gypsy all the way to Hollywood. And yet Fancy's back here in Kentucky, you know, kind of like really frustrated that she hasn't been able to get her narrative out there in a really like, you know, to a really big audience. She feels completely beaten down by the Blanchards, and they have beaten her down. If you're not aware, go over to the Good Wives Network and start researching through that shit, because you will find that Christy, like one of the weirdest things that I think Christy did to Fancy and to anyone involved in this story is that she ended up telling a bunch of people who really hate Fancy that Fancy had crabs. She told everyone that Fancy told her that she had crabs and she got it from like cheating on her husband. And so they made all of these other creators that hated Fancy and like I guess sort of wanted to support Christy, but also don't like Christy, made all of these Facebook groups making fun of Fancy's hoo-ha, as they called it, and as Fancy called it. I think they had Facebook groups called like Fancy's Cookie Party, and they would make cookies like shaped as crabs and just make fun. Fancy, I'm talking about this because Fancy talks about it out in the open, like all over her channel, especially from like when Gypsy first came out of prison. So check back on Fancy's videos in like, I don't know, February, March, because that's when she was really going all out talking about the cookie party. Okay, Renelle Smith. Yes, she could be managing her account too, Christy the momager, 100%. Yes, did Better with the Irish say that? I was wondering if Christy wasn't the one who came in instead of Gypsy too. That's what I was thinking too. So who knows? And that's such a good way to say it. Renelle, she's a momager. Has she been to your channel yet? Because Christy has been on my channel. I'll tell you that much. She's left comments in the beginning, you know, back in February when Gypsy first came out. Not anymore. Okay, let's listen to a little bit more. I'm going to make it big again. Take this down. Here we go.
I've never seen the ocean. Oh, really? You didn't see the ocean? You've never been to an ocean? Really? Because you weren't on a billionaire's boat twice in the middle of the ocean? You've never seen the ocean. Are you shitting me? You went to Florida more times than half the fucking annual pass holders. You're telling me you and Mama never went to freaking the beach?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm sorry, but there's...
Lying liar.
What about the beaches in Louisiana?
Oh. Yes, exactly. I'm not on, you know what? Thank you. I'm not unhinged. Fancy isn't a hinge. Fancy's a force to be actually reckoned with. Gypsy is a master manipulator, and she's working what she has done I'm going to go ahead and continue to read the article. We're not going to let that stupid piece of amoeba shit on a fucking boil of humanity fucking get the rest of me tonight.
It started over there, but I think I was just like, I'll let it play again because the extreme nature to which Fancy will go to in talking about Gypsy, it just kind of blows my mind.
No, thank you, you stupid little snotty little brat. No, I'm so sorry. I guess she just wasn't having enough attention in freaking Hollywood this weekend that she.
Okay. How do you guys feel about this? First off, so much to say. I think what's hard about what's going on here is that I do believe Fancy brought good research and good information to the forefront, but because of her delivery and the way that she has not been able to get her mental health issues under control and her frustration and her anger with Gypsy and Christy, she hasn't been able to get it under control. It's completely overshadowed any message, any like real message that she had, and it's very difficult to take her seriously. Sarcasm for fun, you are so amazing and you don't have to do that. She just gifted 20 memberships and I really appreciate that. You are so sweet and so kind and you've given so much to me. In general, you've always given so much. Thank you, Sarcasm. So my issue with it is that I do believe Fancy had things to bring forward. She had like important questions that needed to be asked. You can go to all these Gypsy Rose Blanchard skeptic groups like Reddit and Facebook, all these different places. And Fancy is very much featured in these groups. And Fancy also, I don't know if you guys are aware, she has a huge Facebook group, the Good Wives Network. Okay. I also don't know if I've ever said this to any of you. I don't know if I've ever said this to you. I'll put it out there right now. Okay. Big news. No, not really. Directly after Gypsy was released from prison and I started noticing Fancy and really like diving into her content and realizing like what was going on with her. And I started to put on my channel, like there's a woman out there. This was before Fancy got really crazy. There's a woman out there who has worked with the Blanchard family. And I started talking about Fancy and I would say, she's on the Good Wives Network. You can go and, listen to her. Almost immediately, Fancy came to my channel and she started commenting and she asked me, she said that like, I don't know what I'm talking about. This was like in comments. I don't know what I'm talking about. I have nothing to do with this family. Fancy has all the good information. And what I need to do is interview her on my channel. Okay. And so I sent Fancy back a message in which I said, Fancy, I don't do interviews. And I told her like, one of the reasons I don't do it is because I don't have very good internet access. I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't interview people. I said, but if you had like a statement, if you want to write a statement about your channel, this was right before she got canceled from going on the Ashley Banfield show because Christy told her she couldn't go. Christy went to the Ashley Banfield show and got her kicked off. If you want to write a statement and send it to me, like I'll present it in one of my videos. And I'm telling people to go to your channel because at that time, Fancy had a very small channel. She probably had like less than 1,000, maybe 1,000 people on her YouTube channel. And so I said, like, you really have to understand that when I talk about you, even if it's good or bad, and it wasn't bad at that point, I'm always sending people to your channel. So just keep that in mind. Like if they want to think otherwise, they'll go to your channel and they will listen to you and then they can make their own decision. I always put out there what your channel is. I said, but send me a statement and I'll put it on a video. And then I didn't hear anything back from her for a couple of days. And then she sent me a cease and desist. So she sent me this cease and desist in which she was like, you are not allowed to talk about me. You're not allowed to talk about my channel, so on and so forth. Now I find it absolutely hilarious because she ignores every cease and desist she gets from Gypsy and Christy and every other person in the world. And then I like messaged her back and I was like, Fancy, like, it's so ridiculous that you would send this to me. I'm literally sending people to your channel. Like, I'm not even talking badly about you. And it's really unprofessional, especially like in the YouTube realm. We use each other's content. We talk about each other. Like, that is part of what you do on YouTube. And I've had a lot of people talk about me and say really shitty things. I don't strike their channel. I don't send them cease and desists. Like, that's a part of how this medium is supposed to work. But anyway, I just kind of ignored it and moved on and didn't talk about her for a while. But then she totally went batshit crazy. And I just couldn't, I was like, I have to talk about this. This is a huge part of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story. Not only that Fancy went crazy, but that Fancy does have all of this information. She has a lot of information that we all need to look at and be aware of. So Fancy, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm gonna talk about what's going on with you. You're a part of this story for the good and bad of it. I definitely have some negative thoughts about the way you've put this information out there. But either way, I'm still it's a part of the story. I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so getting back to this, let's make this big. All right, let's listen to a little bit more. We're about to move into the video. This is the longer video where Gypsy actually shows up on TikTok and starts talking to Fancy.
You needed to come bother little old me here in Kentucky. For her.
Okay, this is where Gypsy actually shows up. I want to go down here. Triple J says, I guess you're talking about Fancy. She attacked another true victim of a Munchausen's by proxy, not Gypsy, and sent all her minions after her. It was awful. Triple J, I did not know about that. And I thought I knew everything about what she was up to. Okay, so I will have to look into that. Very interesting. All right, let's listen to what's going on here with Fancy. I do want to say, last thing I want to say, and then we'll just get to the video. I do think it's crazy that Gypsy is in Hollywood having the time of her life, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, meeting famous people, doing all the shit that she does. And she still took the time to hop into Fancy Maselli's chat. I think that's crazy. And it is kind of an example of how I do think that Gypsy and Christy are obsessed with Fancy, just like Fancy is obsessed with them. And I think it's wrong. It's like they want to destroy each other's lives. And it's just too much for me. Like, I could not be a part of hurting someone in the way that both of them are like trying to hurt each other. All right, so let's take a listen.
She always watches everything I do. They all do. They watch everything I do. So, oh, Gypsy Rose Blanchard with the check mark even. Oh, well, I'll approve you, honey. Let's do it with the check mark even. You want me to approve your comment? I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. No, honey, what I'm obsessed with is the truth, which you've never told once in your entire life. What I'm obsessed with is the fact that you unalived your mama because you wanted dick. You want to tell me more?
You guys heard her right. You unalived your mama because you wanted DICK. You know, that's the point. Okay, someone earlier, I lost, Lexi's laughing. I lost the comment, but someone said, how can you like excuse Gypsy but not understand that Fancy has trauma too? Oh my God, don't even get me started. I don't want to be a jerk. Like, I'm sure Fancy has trauma. Fancy drives me crazy though, because as soon as she came onto the scene and Gypsy was released, she started going on and on about how she has her own problems with her mom. Guess what, Gypsy? I've had a hard life too with my own mom. Oh my God, Fancy, this isn't about you. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, Fancy also started saying like, oh, and I was diagnosed as autistic too. So guess what, Nick? Like, all of these problems that everybody had in this story, it was like suddenly Fancy had them too. I'm not saying that she doesn't have them. I'm just saying that it's weird. And I want to say we all have problems. I don't talk about it extensively on my show, but I did not have a childhood full of roses and cherry blossoms, you guys. I'm sure that a lot of you didn't. I have been around people who have had, I'm sure, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but probably the worst possible childhoods, worse than any of us. You know, I have lived abroad, so I have been around people who have had their legs cut off. You know, I mean, I'm not here to, like, I cannot play at the idea that everybody's trauma is the same and equal. I mean, because I'm sorry. but I have seen shit. Okay. Now I care about Fancy. Fancy apparently didn't have a perfect life either. But she's also been like, but I still love my mom. She did good things. Okay, Fancy, then I mean, it kind of sounds like to me like maybe if you get it, you get it. If you disagree with me, then that's fine. I do care about Fancy's trauma and why she has bipolar disorder and all the things that are going on with her. I'm sure it's really hard. We all have some of that going on. I do believe that what has happened to Gypsy is on a different level. Now, it may not be so severe in that I don't necessarily believe that Gypsy was severely beaten with a switch every day of her life. I get that. I get it. But there's a mental fuck. Like there's a mental just like fuck up in Gypsy's head from what her mother did to her. It's a different kind of like severe abuse. It's a way of molding your child's brain to look at the world in such a messed up way so that they'll never even have a chance at having a normal life. I don't believe that Gypsy is going to be okay ultimately. I hope she will. I hope everyone around her will. I hope that Fancy will be okay. I hope everyone will be great. But I mean, the reality is that this was a pretty effed up childhood. Okay, so let's go back to Fancy. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Let's get back to Fancy. She's talking to Gypsy. Gypsy's in her TikTok. That's why she's looking over to the side.
About how I'm obsessed, honey? Let's go. Apparently, guys, Gypsy Rose has decided to grace us with her presence over here on TikTok. You want to come up in the box?
That would be great.
You want to come up in the box? You're welcome to come up in the box.
Come get in the box.
Come bring it in the box. Let's do it. I have lots of questions for you. Oh, did you come in to violate me for harassment, honey? Oh, too bad. So sorry. How's California? You having a good time in your fat ass, pink ass dress? Yeah, you do look fat in it.
Oh my God. So did you guys see that Gypsy went out? I should have put a picture here. I talked about this in my last video. Gypsy was in, she's in LA. She put on that pink dress. Did you guys see it? If you didn't see it, check out my last video. I did say in that video, I was like, Christy Blanchard did her wrong. She should have told Gypsy, this is not the dress for you. I just want to say it's not about like really the way that Gypsy specifically looks. It's about the dress itself is fucking crazy. Like nobody wears a dress like that. I'm sorry. But Fancy really goes after her. Like it is mean. It's like over the top. But once again, one thing I respect about Fancy, like she's staying consistent. She hates Gypsy. She's letting her know. She's not in there like, come on up in the box. I mean, she's gonna say come on up in the box, but she's not pretending to be friends with her. She's letting her know, like, yeah, I fucking hate you. I really hate you. Okay, let me make this exit full screen and then let me make this big again. All right, here we go.
Just so you know, you asked. Do you look fat in it? You look like a slut in it. That's what you look like. Yep. You look ridiculous.
How about this? Gypsy, come up into the box. Fancy won't ask you anything, but I will. Allow me to ask you one question.
She is a chicken. You're right, guys. She's a chicken. A chicken that couldn't even unalive her mama by her damn self. If you wanted to do it, girl, why didn't you just do it? We all know you tried.
Yes, she came in here. I may or may not have sent an invite.
Ooh! Girl, you got nerve coming up in here.
Calling us obsessed? Really? We got you just like one day.
Look, hey, you know what?
They are obsessed. I don't know if you can hear there's someone else talking. Her name is Sarah, and she appears like as a secondary like person for Fancy to talk to on her lives now. So if you hear someone in the background, that's Sarah. Sarah very much like agrees with Fancy. They're kind of on the same page about everything. So yeah, I think she should have been like, yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed because I think that Fancy is obsessed because of what Gypsy and Christy did to her. I can see it. I think that they fucked her over big time. They started making Facebook groups about her hoo-ha, you guys, like years ago. And they really, like, betrayed her. Like, you have to go deep into this to understand that Fancy believed that Christy was, like, her best friend. Yeah, I mean, I think okay, so I've seen this a lot on YouTube. It's like a lot of people who do YouTube, myself included, like, we have some, like, measure of loneliness in our life. Like, for me, it's like traveling all around the world and feeling like everything is constantly changing. I can't take anything with me. And then finally I stumbled upon YouTube and I was like, "Hey, I can take this from post to post. I can use it in different places." I've made like relationships and friendships with a couple of people on YouTube, and I feel like no matter where I go, I would still be talking to them. And I think maybe like that's everybody probably has a little bit of that on some level. I think that's probably what happened with Fancy. Like, she had her own issues, her own problems in her life. She even talks about it. She's like, I left Hollywood, my husband, like I followed him. I don't know, some deal with her relationship with her husband. And she's like, I didn't get to accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish. Then Christy Blanchard ends up coming into her life, and it looks like she's finally going to make it. She's finally going to write a book. She's finally going to make a movie series. She's finally going to do all these things. She goes and stays with Christy Blanchard for a period of time. She becomes close with that family. Fancy claims that Christy was really close with her children. And that's kind of like Christy's thing. She does this to a lot of people. And I think back then Fancy was one of the first. So she didn't even really have someone to learn from. Whereas now, like, I've learned from what's happened to Fancy, what's happened to Brandy, what's happened with Katie Joy Paulson, you know, all these people getting involved with Christy, and it becomes completely toxic. Okay. But Fancy didn't know, I guess, or maybe she liked it. You know, that's part of it too, because some of these creators, not all of them, I feel like they are into this kind of toxic relationship. Okay. They get involved with Christy. Christy's like, oh, they're bestie, like they're best friends. And I believe that Fancy felt really betrayed when everything changed, when Christy not only turned on her, but made all these other creators turn on her as well. So I think that I wish Fancy would just say, yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with what you did to me. I kind of get it. I kind of get it. That's where I can fall on Fancy's side.
I said it to your friend, Dawn Brown, and I'll say it again. For every day that you stand out here lying about your bullshit, I'm going to be standing next to you going, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a fucking schmurderer, and she has a chromosome disorder called 1q21.1, and she's lied to all of you.
Gypsy, I won't say anything mean to you.
I don't care if it's not the nicest thing to say. I got
That's funny to me. Sarah's in the background really trying to get Gypsy to come up. Gypsy, I won't say anything mean to you. Just come up for 1 minute.
lots of things not nice to say.
I just want to ask you a question. Come on. I'm going to be as nice can be. We don't know each other. Come on.
Oh, Sarah. It's really funny to watch Fancy's lives because Sarah is the new Ryan. If you don't know who Ryan is, go back and watch all of my many videos about it. But it's funny because Fancy completely ignores Sarah, like ignores her, speaks over her. Like, Sarah's just there to kind of provide a little bit of commentary whenever Fancy goes quiet for a short period of time.
I mean, you already said we're obsessed. We're not.
No, she's not an abused soul. She was never abused. Go to hell. No, she's not going to come up because she's a coward. Just like she took the coward's way out with her mama, and she took the coward's way out with Ryan. Well, I hate to tell you this, sweetheart, you're not going to get rid of me. I don't go away. I'm not going to leave you alone. And I'm not just obsessed with you. You know, to be honest with you, I wish I never had to say your name ever again in my entire freaking life.
You know what? I really get that. Okay, once again, go back and listen. Maybe I should just put them all together in one big video. I really get that Fancy's life got fucked. I'm sorry. It's way too much negative language in this video, but I really can see it. You know, she thought she was going somewhere. Okay, now someone else mentioned in here that Fancy had some kind of weird thing going on before Gypsy. I will look into that. I'm not aware of it, so thank you for letting me know. I'm going to look into that. But yeah, I mean, I think I can really see like she was a woman trying to go somewhere with her life. Like, I can feel it, like feeling stuck, you know? What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to do this? And then she kind of gets pulled in to this saga. She watches the HBO documentary. She's like, I'm really interested in this. And then she finds Christy Blanchard on Facebook, because that's how it happened. Christy Blanchard was on Facebook and all these Facebook groups about Gypsy. And people were talking schmeck about Christy and about Gypsy in the groups. A lot of people didn't like them, and they really didn't like Christy, okay? So Fancy Maselli comes in there. She finds Christy, and she's like, hey, people are talking schmeck about you, but I believe in you. I'm here for you. I want to be your best friend. I want to make a documentary about you. So yes, she was kind of using them, but they totally used her in return. And I think she believed this was her thing. This was her way out of her funk, her way out of just living in the middle of nowhere, like bumfuck Kentucky. And like, she was going to make it. I can see it. I can just see it all. And she became friends with Christy. It's almost like I'm writing the story in my mind, like as I've heard it from Fancy. And it almost makes me want to cry, because she's gone crazy because these people have made her even more crazy than she was before. Ugh. I have a whole thing about that, because I have a whole series I want to do about Britney Spears and how people made her effing insane. And I have a whole background story. Okay, I can't go into that. Let's go ahead and listen to the rest of what Fancy has to say.
But you know what? The world needs the truth. The world needs the truth. And since nobody else has been able to upset me in any way, shape, or form over the last month and a half since I found peace in all of this, from your bullshit that you have put me through and the death threats that you sent to me, thank you.
Okay, so Fancy is literally accusing Gypsy Rose of sending her death threats. Now, I told you that Fancy came onto her Facebook before and said that when Gypsy was in prison, Fancy called her, okay? And they were having like a falling out. And Fancy was telling her, like, girl, you got to get it together, blah, blah, blah. Because Fancy was also being super controlling of Gypsy. And that's part of the reason why the falling out occurred, was that Fancy did not get along with Ken Urker. Ken Urker had entered Gypsy's life. They were going to get married. Ken Urker hated Fancy. Gypsy was like, oh my God, I don't even know Fancy, and she's being so controlling over me. So there's all this background to all of it. Okay. And during that conversation, at the end of the conversation, according to Fancy, Gypsy said, hey, Fancy, remember, the last person who fucked around with me wound up dead. Like, can you even imagine? So a part of the reason why Gypsy hates Fancy so much, I believe, this is my opinion, is that Fancy, in retaliation for all of this, started writing and communicating with the parole board. She started finding out like things that Gypsy was doing and like sending messages to the parole board about it, basically saying that Gypsy should not be released on parole. She is part of the group of people who reported what Gypsy was doing on TikTok, who reported about Rachel Garlick. Fancy used to hate Rachel Garlick. Now she's like friendly with her. I cannot stand that about social media. I cannot stand when two people, like, they don't like each other, they don't get along, they screw each other over, but then all of a sudden, you know, like 3 months later, they're on the same side, on the same page, so now they're friends. I don't play like that. I can disagree with someone and still be friends with them because I know what their heart is. And I can agree with someone and still hate the shit out of them because I know what their heart is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't mess around with like, we were friends one day, now we're enemies the next. That's not how things work for me, but that's how things work for these people. So there's a lot of like background to why Fancy and Gypsy hate each other.
You had to come up in my live and be fucking ridiculous and then run away when you couldn't handle it. Damn.
No, I was gonna be very objective. I just had one question to ask her.
Why don't you ask her?
I would like to know, for myself and for my own sanity and peace of mind, and for my own credibility.
Oh, I know I'm not saying very nice things.
Well, I don't want Wyatt to hear.
Oh, great. I just got kicked. Because of it? Yep. I just got kicked.
Okay. Do you hear that in the background? That's Fancy's daughter in the background telling her, well, first off, Fancy's daughter is there with her grandchild who Fancy watches sometimes. And Fancy's daughter is like, you're not being very nice, Mom. And Fancy's like, I know I'm not being very nice. I just got kicked. And the daughter's like, because of that? And she's like, yeah. So she got kicked off of TikTok. It's like a 24-hour ban. She gets them all the time. And she believes it's because Gypsy and other people like around Gypsy constantly report her videos, which is probably true. But of course, like they're going to, she's on there like accusing Gypsy of all kinds of things, which she has not been found guilty of. I mean, it's really up to the police. This is a criminal matter. And I'm sorry, I have a really good buddy, okay? One of my favorite subscribers, I guess I shouldn't say her name because I don't want people stalking her, but she loves to call Fancy Fancy Drew. I love that. It's my favorite thing, one of my favorite things she's ever said. She'll be like, Fancy Drew is, out to discover what's going on with Gypsy. It's like, Fancy, you are not a detective. I'm sorry. Like, even when you come up with these ideas and you bring it to us and you're like, I read this in this interview with so-and-so. It's like, you are not trained. You're not a trained detective. So whatever you say, I have to take it with a grain of salt. I'm sorry. You do not have a background in like understanding what's actually going on with this case. You're making a lot of assumptions. I'm not saying that it's not interesting, but you leave no room open for anybody who thinks differently than you. That's why you sent me a cease and desist, right? Because I thought a little bit differently from what you were saying, even though I was willing to present what you were saying and tell my viewers to go and make their own decision. Like, you cannot leave it alone. It has to be like, you're wrong, 100% wrong, and I'm 100% right. Nobody is 100% right. Okay. So here we have Fancy once again. She's her, that's one of the things that I wrote to Fancy when I wrote back to her about the cease and desist. I said, Fancy, you are your own worst enemy, girl. And it rings true to this day.
Yeah. Fucking little bitch. I fucking hate that cunt. Oh, God. Go on.
Okay. There's more. There's an 1.5-hour stream about this. You can go to Fancy's page to check it out. Okay. I don't want her coming over here and sending me another cease and desist. Yeah, she definitely has a disorder. She said it. She's like, I have bipolar disorder. I have other things going on. She talks extensively. Oh my God, Kat, 100%. Fancy is a woman scorned. Fancy Drew is a woman scorned. Yes, a lot of people have said that it's embarrassing, but Zen, if you haven't seen her other videos, this is not the worst. You want to see embarrassing? Go over and check them out. And I'm not trying to be mean. Once again, I find Fancy fascinating. I actually enjoy watching those videos. I see insanity sometimes. I also see things that I think are like prevalent and should be brought forward. I'm not 100% shitting on her because I see a lot of interesting stuff going on with her channel as well. I think it's worth taking a look at and then making your own decisions about it. Look at this. So someone, Nicole Connor, I've never heard about this. So I need to do some more research. Nicole and a couple of other people, I think Sabrina in here, they're talking about some stuff that's gone down with Fancy in the past. And according to them, she used to be a wedding planner and she would like destroy people's weddings. So Nicole writes, one review said she destroyed their decorations and then got drunk at the open bar. I cannot confirm nor deny that, but that sounds like Fancy. And I'm sorry, but I kind of like low-key love it. I really do. All right, let's see. 99 balloons. This is enough of Fancy for me. Okay, you're missing out though, because I'm sure it's going to keep getting crazier. All right. Yes, all of this is still on Facebook. All of it is still on her YouTube channel. Just she has it everywhere. I want to share with you like this new rabbit hole that I'm heading down. I just put this video up. It's not available to the public now, so I'm going to show you real quick. I hope you guys will join me down this new rabbit hole that I'm going into. I'm going to share my screen with you. This is all about Paul Ferguson, Timothy Ferguson, and Shanda Vander Ark. I know that it's been out there for a while, but I have been researching and I have so much more to say, you guys. I really do. And I hope that you'll join me a little bit down this rabbit hole. So I'm going to play a little bit of the video for you, and then you can watch the rest of it when I make it public. Millie Ferguson, Timothy's older sister, remembers Legos everywhere. Covering the floor, stacked meticulously, following the directions piece by piece, Timothy loved Legos. He was different, slower to use his speech, faster to dash from room to room too quickly to hear instructions from all the adults. He was blonde with a wide, unshakable smile. The adults couldn't keep up with him. But Millie was his pal. As a baby and a toddler, Timothy Ferguson lived in Oklahoma with his mother, father, and 3 siblings. But 9 times during Timothy's short life, Child Protective Services staff in Oklahoma investigated the Ferguson family. Several investigations led to unsubstantiated findings, but on the final investigation in 2009, social workers removed the children from the parents' care because of safety concerns. A court order even tried to limit the contact Shanda Vander Ark, Timothy's mother, had with her own children. Okay, you guys, those of you who have been following this case, I have so much more to say beyond what happened in the courtroom. I have a lot of information about Shanda's background, her family, which is insane. What she went through, what Paul Ferguson went through, and how this has been like a generational problem for so long. I really hope that you'll watch this intro video, and then I'm going to make a series of additional videos talking about like the past, what happened to Shanda, what happened to Paul, a lot of things that I want to say about autism in prison. It's really important to me to get this out there. If you've been following this case, you have not heard what I have to say. And I will also be talking extensively about the phone calls. We've got a ton of prison calls out there between Paul Ferguson and people in his life, and Shanda Vander Ark and people in her life, and I have so much to say about it. I want to end this by taking you to the end of my video and showing you this clip of Millie Ferguson, Timothy's older sister, speaking out in court on his behalf. I recently found it, and I wanted to include it at the end of what I had to say here. Let's take a listen, and then we'll be finished with this live. First, we have to play this game, I guess.
Millie Joan Ferguson. Thank you. I'm Millie. I'm Timothy's youngest older sister. I'm 2 years older than him. One of my earliest memories I have was being taken away from my parents by CPS. My 2 older brothers rode in a car ahead of us, and me and Timothy rode together in the second car. And in every picture we have as a family, Timothy was always right by my side. We were the 2 youngest, the 2 smallest. We were the 2 that sat in the middle in the backseat car rides with the 2 small car. The last 2 to get hand-me-downs, the 2 that never had to worry about not getting homework help from an older sibling. He was always 2 years behind me, so every time I got to the next level in school, that's how many years I had to wait for him to follow along. When I was in 8th grade, he was in 6th, and there was a student in my science class that started talking about him, trying to start rumors. I stood up right as class was starting, as people were quieting down, and I shouted at him to never talk about my little brother. People could say whatever they wanted about me, I didn't care, but not about him, and never about him, because I was his big sister. It was my job to protect him. I like to say I don't regret things in my life, that every mistake I've made has made me who I am today, but when Timothy died, I couldn't stop regretting. I regret not hugging him more and teasing him so much instead of telling him that I loved him every once in a while. I regret not putting aside my differences with Shanda and Paul just to check in on him. I regret not dancing with him the last time I saw him at our brother's wedding. These are the things that I can't remedy now. There's no fixing what's been done. No way to redo it all over again, and that's my regret. That I couldn't protect him when he needed me most. Timothy was so smart. He could take anything apart with any tools, or none at all. He had trouble focusing, but when he did, he was just as smart as the rest of his class. He made people angry, yes, but then he would look at you with those big baby blue eyes and you'd never stay mad at him. It took me 6 months of therapy after he died to even properly feel the emotions of his death. And I'm still in therapy today. I've been trying so hard since he passed away just to try to let people know of him, let people know that he was loved, that there are people out there grieving for him. I'm here today for him because I was asked to speak for him, because I was given a victim impact statement form instead of a witness one, because the victim of this crime can't speak for himself. I knew him his whole life. I held him the day he was born, and I continued to try to hold his hand as long as he was by my side, until he wasn't. I want the woman who killed my little brother to face the highest punishment possible. I want her detained for the rest of her life so she can't hurt anyone else. And I want the world to know that Timothy was wanted, if not by her, then by me. He was loved by me. Thank you.
Timothy Ferguson had autism. If you're not aware about this case, I'll be exploring it extensively. Timothy had autism, and he was murdered by his mother and his older brother, who starved him to death. Many of you are aware that I have a son with autism, the most amazing gift in my life. Like, he is an amazing person, an amazing kid. And it's really hard for me to watch some of these crime stories involving children and adults on the autism spectrum. And a part of what I'm going to be talking about in this series is that I do believe that Paul Ferguson, the older son who helped and contributed to the death, to the murder of Timothy Ferguson, I absolutely believe that he's on the autism spectrum. I am fully aware of the psychological testing that was done on him that says he is not, and I'm going to be covering it and reviewing what I believe is going on in this family. And I really hope that all of you will join me and that we can talk about it and have some good debate back and forth. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm going to release this video right after the live stream. Much love to all of you, and I hope to see all of you soon. Have a great day.